Yeah, congratulations, Suella Braverman. The British government's controversial plans to deport asylum seekers have failed for the time being. A court ruled that Rwanda is not a safe third country. And with this, the British government has failed in court with its plan to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda. An appeals court in London ruled that the project was illegal. The judges ruled by a majority that Rwanda cannot be considered a safe third country. I gave you a lot of reasons in an earlier video why. The reason for this are deficiencies in the asylum procedure there. It cannot be ruled out that people seeking protection from Rwanda will be deported back to their home countries, even though they have a right to asylum. This decision can still be appealed to the UK Supreme Court, though. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's government wants to deport thousands of migrants under a deal struck with Rwanda last year. This is to discourage people coming to the UK from France across the English Channel in small boats. Last year, more than 45,000 people came to Great Britain this way, although Conservative forces had announced that Brexit would reduce migration. As so far this year, there have been over 11,000 people as well. Home Secretary Suella Braverman's plan envisaged that people who have entered the UK irregularly, regardless of their origin and without their asylum application being examined, will be detained and deported to Rwanda as soon as possible. They should then apply for asylum there, and a return to Great Britain is not planned. Braverman and Sunak's plan had been internationally criticized. Human rights activists called it a violation of international obligations. The government has been repeatedly criticized for human rights violations. The London court's decision is now a major defeat for Sunak, who has said stopping migration is one of his top priorities. The UK has not built capacity to take in migrants and has not had a readmission agreement with the EU since Brexit. Many people are therefore accommodated in hotels, which causes high costs for taxpayers, but a few days ago, the British government published a calculation according to which the costs of deporting asylum seekers to Rwanda are expected to be £169,000 per deportation. How long can you put people in a hotel for that? The first planned deportation flight a year ago was stopped by an injunction from the European Court of Human Rights. This had prohibited the British government's plan as long as the court proceedings in Great Britain have not been completed. In December, the High Court in London ruled that the planned deportations were lawful. Human rights groups then turned to the Court of Appeal. But the legal battle continues because the government plans to appeal to the UK Supreme Court. While I respect the court, I fundamentally disagree with its conclusions, said Sunak. He takes the position that such decisions should only be made by elected representatives of the people and not by judges. Oh, separation of powers? Huh? Well, the Rwandan government also criticized the decision. We disagree with the verdict that Rwanda is not a safe country for asylum seekers and refugees. That was said by a government spokeswoman. And Rwanda is one of the safest countries in the world, and we have been recognized by the UN High Commissioner for Refugees and other international institutions for our exemplary treatment of refugees. Well, I heard differently. Despite the verdict, Rwanda wants to stick to the partnership, and this is extremely lucrative for Kigali. A one-time payment of £140 million was initially agreed for the deal, and for every deportee there is more. In London, calls for what ITV presenter Robert Peston calls the nuclear option are now likely to increase for Britain to leave the European Conventions on Human Rights, which it co-founded in 1951. But such a step, as experts warn, would have unforeseeable consequences, and not just for migration policy. Thus, the ECHR is a fundamental pillar of the peace agreement in Northern Ireland. But this government and the extreme right-wingers in the Tory obviously want to do everything they can to, I have to call it, to proceed with their racist policy and their inhumane policy. And I talked about this a lot of times. I'm not one of those that are going very close to the Libyan coast, picking up refugees there to bring them to Europe and stuff like that. And I'm nobody who says everybody is welcome. I say everybody with a legit asylum claim is welcome in a Western country that provides safety, as long as we can handle this. And we still can handle that a lot. And we are having far more people coming into Germany than in this time in 2015-16, where people were rioting, where all the right wingers have been popping up everywhere. It's more today than it was that time. And that was called the climax of the refugee crisis. It's much higher now. But I also say that people who are fleeing from a war have every right to come and seek refuge, and the same should apply to Britain. But I say that people that are coming for economical reasons have no right to stay. And we need proper procedures to sort the different kinds of people that are coming and asking for help. But we have to protect those that are really having legit need for protection. And that is where I make the difference. And war refugees can come here, as we did with Syria, as we're still doing with Ukraine. But for all of them, it is, although I get a lot of criticism here from my friends as well when I'm saying this, but when the war is over, they have to go home because they need to rebuild their own country. Asylum seekers with legitimate claims will probably stay forever, because it rarely happens at the moment that the governments in the country and the political system in their country, in their home country, will change that much that they are not in danger anymore. So I believe that most of the asylum seekers will stay forever. And that's okay. War refugees can stay as long as the war is going on. When there's peace, they should go back home. And people who are just coming because their economical situation is not as good at home as it is here, for example, here in Germany, they have no right to come for that reason. We need a lot of people taking up jobs in the Western countries nowadays. But for that, we need a proper immigration law for people coming for economical reasons, for taking up jobs here. That's people we need. There are different calculations in Germany, for example, we need between 100,000 and 400,000 people a year. Well, if that's the case, make a proper immigration law, and that's it. That's what I was really fighting with my own party for years about blocking something like that, because I think that was a mistake. But you never agree fully with the party you are in. But what our current government is doing with the immigration laws is not a good thing either. They're not having a good solution, because the naturalization part of this is complete nonsense. But we need an immigration law to regulate this. And the discussions at the outer borders about the outer border centers at the EU do make sense as well. Just the blocking by Hungary and Poland now again is the typical game. Although Orban does want exactly that. He wants the centers there. The only difference is he wants everybody in that center. And that's a point for a discussion. When you know that somebody arrives there and you already know in that situation as a public servant that he has a very legit claim and he will probably stay in the country, he doesn't need to be in a center like that. But that's a discussion for my EU channel. But nevertheless, I'm quite glad that the appeals court now decided like they did decide, because Rwanda is not a safe third country. If you look at my videos a few weeks ago where I talked about exactly that in Rwanda, the appeals court just said what I said. And it takes away all the arguments and the comments under my videos. Yeah, the UK High Court, London High Court said blah, 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 it's legal. Well, that court ruling is gone now. The appeals court is higher, so we wait for the Supreme Court next. Nevertheless, we can talk about that topic a bit on Sunday as well, when finally the Outside Views live streams will come back at 6 p.m. CET on Sunday. If you want to ask some questions for it, there's still a community post up there. You can ask questions until tonight, and then I will pick some questions for Sunday. And if you want to see something else right now, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.